Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We welcome all of you to International Student of Islamic Psychology, ISIP, to the regional chapter meeting, presentation lecture, which we usually have frequently, maybe twice in a month. And today, we'll be having Sister Nafisah, Therapist Nafisah, who will be discussing with us from wounded to healing, Islamic strategies to rewire the traumatized brain. So quickly, I will just we'll start together with short prayers, and you can just read along with me. So Fatiha, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Malik إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. We use this opportunity to pray for our brothers and sisters in Palestine, that may Allah grant them patience and grant them support. We are all seeking for answers. Why is this happening? It's too tough to handle. At the same time, maybe it's a time for us to also have introspection as to what are the things that are going wrong from our own internal self that we are not able to support as much as we can, even though we are doing that with our prayers. So maybe from that we'll gain a strength, and we hope that the story has not ended yet, and we still hope that to end in a way that truth we have victory. So I will advise us, I will enjoy us to not forget them in our dua. Bismillah wa ni'mal wakil. Wallahu musta'an. So now we're going to start without wasting our time. So the rules are that, please, you keep your mic muted. It's variable that you don't put on your video, maybe for connectivity issues, and you don't need to record. We are going to record this, and after the event, inshallah, we're going to share you with the recording of the event, so you don't have to record. If you have any question during the presentation, you can put them in the chat button, or you wait after the presentation, inshallah, you'll be allowed to speak and ask the direct question. So I will, without wasting our time, I will be sharing the slide, or I'll give our speaker the opportunity to start the event and inform me when to start the presentation. So before then, I'll ask Sister Amara to please recite the citation for our speaker. Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sister Nafisah Ogunbona-Fadipe is the founder or lead therapist at Psychcare Psychological Center. She is a graduate of psychology at Obafemi Awolowo University, Nigeria, where she earned her first degree in psychology and proceeded to the prestigious University of Lagos, Nigeria, for her second degree in clinical psychology. She has undergone certification courses in mental health and sexual abuse prevention at Richmond Graduate Institute, USA, resilience counseling at Yale University, addiction counseling at Africa Mental Health Foundation, a mini MBA course at Tekidia Institute, and level 1 and 2 trauma-informed care at Jazz Institute, California. She has helped many people overcome mental health problems over the years, both virtually and offline. She is presently a trauma-informed care therapist at Jazz Institute, California, US, and a part-time psychology lecturer at West Africa Union University, Cotonou, Benin. She is married with lovely kids. Yeah.
Alhamdulillah, thank you. Over to you, our therapist. Bismillah. Hajia Nafisah, now, Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Would you like to use your video? I think it's fine if you don't have any issue. So that
Is it okay like this?
we can't see your video now. You mean you're asking if you can stay on audio only?
Go on like this, or it's important I put the video.
Okay. It's not very important, although we like it. So if you're okay
But
with it,
it's okay that everybody see my face.
I think it's fine. Yeah, we want to see your face. Actually, explain to us.
Okay.
That's fine. Okay. So
Um, can I start?
yes, this one.
Okay, alhamdulillah rabbil alamin, rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. So praise be to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the most merciful, the most compassionate, the master of the day of judgment. I bear witness that there is no God but He, the Lord of the earlier and later generations. He is the sustainer of heaven and earth. Peace and blessings be upon the one who was sent as a mercy to the world. I bear witness that is the messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Peace and blessings be upon him, upon all his family, companions, and upon those that believe in his guidance till the day of accountability.
I mean,
So, inshallah, we'll be starting the session on trauma from wounding to healing, Islamic strategies to rewire the traumatized brain. You've not shared the link out. You've not shared
please, hold on,
the
please do that
screen.
now. Hold on, please.
Okay, so trauma, when you hear the word trauma, what actually comes to mind? Most people have this image of a soldier in combat, just like what is happening in Palestine presently now. Which, I can't see the screen.
I'm trying to share it. Yes, yes. Hold on, please.
Okay, no problem. I'll check here. So, many people think, okay, trauma is maybe when, like, what is happening in Palestine presently now. So, a lot of people see it as something that is far, that is not me. It didn't happen to me. It can't even happen to me. And we all feel, well, it happened. So, it actually provokes different ideas. But if you're like other people, you might also feel, okay, well, people have it and then it is just there. But what if you don't even need to travel to different places to know that this thing is a struggle that we all have, that we all endure? It is closer to home. Yeah. So it's like something your friend endure as a child, even yourself endure as a child, maybe an event your siblings has kept to themselves, or maybe something that you've been quietly carrying and you don't even realize you have it, or you don't even realize it is happening to you or people that are seated beside you. So according to the advanced childhood experiences study, in a sample of over 17,000 individuals, they found that 64% of these people surveyed had actually experienced trauma. They've experienced something traumatic in their life, because one thing about life is, we all know the nature of this life. It can never be paradise. This life is a place of sickness, is a place of disaster, is a place of fine, is a place of peace. But all these things are just part of the nature of this life. So it is normal that we experience all these things according to the nature of this life. So what are these trauma like? What are these things that we call trauma? Like sexual abuse, physical abuse, domestic violence, maybe substance abuse in the household, some mental illness, with a parent or a member of the family, emotional neglect while growing up, physical neglect. So when you walk down the streets, 2 out of 3 people have actually undergone this kind of thing. They've had this kind of experience. So it is something that's happened to virtually everybody. So now imagine what the number would look like throughout a person's lifespan. Maybe you've experienced trauma in various forms while growing up, then getting married as well. This is the adulthood is actually a stage whereby the person experienced trauma as well. Maybe getting married, getting into a relationship for the first time, giving birth to children, a way that maybe you find it difficult to cope with that. So that can be a source of trauma for some people. And coping with major life challenges, life issues generally, maybe entering the workforce for the first time, whereby you happen to have a boss that usually criticizes you often. So if a person is not careful, such person can come down with trauma or whatever we call it. So this verse of the Quran reads whenever I listen to lectures on trauma or whenever I'm talking about trauma. This in Quran 29 verse 2. Allah says, do the people think that they will be left to say, we believe, and they will not be tried? We've certainly tried those before them, and Allah will surely make evident those that are truthful, and He will surely make evident those that are false. So in that verse, Allah lets us understand the fact that this trauma of a thing is something that will happen because we are believers. Even those that didn't believe, theirs actually is more. There is more trauma for them, unlike the believers. The believers can cope with faith. They can cope with different things that help them. Maybe things that are in the religion, things that they've learned from the Quran and this of Rasulullah. When you have faith. But a person that doesn't have faith, we just believe maybe trauma is coming from somebody they've offended in the past, or maybe shaitan, or maybe a jinn is bringing it to them. But this verse actually confirms that trauma is something that can happen to us. And then in Surah Al-Baqarah as well, Allah talk about the fact that we are going to test you with something of fear, hunger, loss of life in that. And then towards the end tail of that verse, Allah says, the only people that will be saved are those that are patient. That says, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi rajiun. So this Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi rajiun is not just something that you say, a statement that you utter. It has to come from the heart. If it doesn't come from the heart, then it means it is not, such person is not saying it, but the trauma will actually be there. And also, we need to also establish the fact that trauma, having some reactions after traumatic experience doesn't mean you don't believe in Allah, because some people misunderstood this concept. And when they see people coming down with maybe some normal reactions after trauma, like feeling sad a bit, it is still part of it. You have to experience some reactions. Yeah. And then after a while, you're back on your feet. So now let's take the slide to what trauma is. So I've been talking about the fact that trauma is, the next slide, please. So I've been talking about the fact that trauma is something that we all experience. So what exactly is trauma? So trauma is a type of damage to the psyche that occurs as a sort of, some severely distressing event. So trauma, in a way, in Greek word, it is called wound. That is where the topic comes out from wounding to healing. So if a person is suffering from trauma-related symptoms, so it means the person has been wounded, maybe by life issues or whatever. So it's often the result of an overwhelming amount of stress that exceeds one's ability to cope. This thing is not supposed to exceed our ability to cope, because Allah promised us in the Quran that La yukallifullahu nafsan illa wus'aha, that He will not put more than what you can bear. So like whatever trauma we experience, Allah knows that we are fit. But the problem is, human beings, we didn't believe we are fit to actually encounter that thing. We didn't believe that we can experience that trauma. We didn't believe that load is what Allah believe we can carry. So because we didn't believe it, that is why it is very easy to come down with some trauma. The next slide. So, wow. So the next slide, please. Good. So then trauma, so the definition of trauma continues, just the disaster, something that I've been talking about actually. So what are the types of trauma? There are different kinds of trauma. We have the natural disaster, like what is happening in Palestine, fighting, war, robberies, shootings, assault, violence, bullying, just think of anything. I've mentioned all this before. So the next slide, neglect, sexual abuse, all those things. Then there's something we call complex trauma as well. So complex trauma is just like when you've experienced multiple traumatic events. So that can make one vulnerable to develop symptoms. So that's about trauma. Now, let's continue. Then we talk about, so we want to talk about the ease of trauma as well. They are just things that are so peculiar to trauma. They are like, okay, the event, what really happened to a particular person, the experience, how the person experienced the trauma. If you believe Allah knows that you are worthy, like you can take up this challenge, then it won't weigh you down. But if you don't believe that Allah knows you can take up this challenge, it will weigh you down. So that is the experience. How do you experience this thing? It is very important to how trauma affects a person. Then effects. So the effect is just like maybe immediate effect or long-term something. So what are the key areas affected by complex trauma or trauma generally? What are the areas that trauma affects? We want to talk about how it damages relationship. Actually, when you've experienced some kind of relational trauma, it affects the way you see other people. If it affects, for instance, I was at a place a few days ago, and then a person asked that, okay, what if you've experienced some kind of relational trauma, maybe you had issue in your first marriage, then in your second marriage, you're not able to relate well with the spouse because you still believe the person can betray you. So that is what relational trauma is all about. So it damages relationship, even though you're safe in your present relationship. But because of the trauma you've experienced in the past, you won't be able to come out straight. You won't be able to really be so relaxed in your next relationship. You just be afraid. Or it might not even be intimate relationship, maybe just friendship or any kind of relationship, whatever. There are people that usually tell me, especially people that have been abused, maybe sexually abused in the past, and they're like, oh, I can't just drop my child for anybody, especially the females among them, because I don't want anyone to abuse them. Why they have that lens is because such person has been betrayed by our environment in the past. So the other area that trauma affects is emotional regulation. Any person has experienced trauma, though it is not everybody that experiences traumatic events that comes down with trauma reactions. Some people are able to, overcome it within a few periods, whereby some people go ahead to develop PTSD or trauma or whatever, or depression or whatever you call it. So emotional regulation, people that have experienced this thing, they find it difficult to regulate their emotion. They are always angry. They are always they are not able to control their emotion, getting angry easily, getting sad easily, feeling frustrated, feeling like everything is just out of it. They can't even tolerate little things. They find it difficult to tolerate distress. They just want to run away from distress. That is why we see alcohol, substance abuse everywhere now, because many people are battling with some trauma-related issues, and they are not able to cope with their emotion. So what they do is they use those alcohol, those substances to ease their pain. So most times when they take those things, they feel relaxed, they feel happy. So they want to, that is why when the effect of that thing stops, they want to go back to take it, because they believe that is what helped them to cope with the stress. So majorly, they find it difficult to regulate their emotion. That is why they abuse substance and other things that people take to regulate emotion. Also, people do other things to regulate emotion by yelling. That is also a way to they use to regulate, even though it's unhealthy. But people don't. So people that have not emotion, so they just go ahead to use any kind of unhealthy ways to regulate their emotion, and that increase what they are feeling, that complicates the problem. So then behavior, trauma affects behavior. When a person is having some psychological trauma, they behave in a way, someone taking alcohol, that such person is not even able to do other things in life. And then people start to complain, can't you see that this alcohol is affecting your life? And such person didn't even see it because the person is having trauma. So the root cause of everything is trauma. It is trauma. So when you see a person misbehaving, maybe something that you don't even expect such person to do, you can immediately trace it to trauma. Is this person experiencing some psychological issues? And most times it is true that such person is having it. So behavior is dysregulated. Thoughts, it affects a person's thoughts. It just person start to think in a negative, extremely negative ways. Like such, but it might affect the person's faith. For instance, the person might believe Allah doesn't love him or her. Like, why am I experiencing this kind of thing? Allah doesn't love me, or maybe other people hate me. That is so common to people that are having depression. They think in a negative way. People don't love me. Everybody hates me. Life is not okay. Things are not good. That is just the way they think. So it damages the person's thought. Then it leads to dissociation as well. When a person has experienced trauma, the person can easily develop mindlessness, like dissociating from your environment. You are here, but your mind is not here. You are not even able to do anything. You are here, right? But your mind is not here. You are not able to pay attention to what you are doing, even though it is normal most times that okay, a person might have a bit of mind shatter. But when it happens often, so that can mean the person, especially when the mind shatter is all about negativity. The mind shatter is all about negativity, so that can be as a result of trauma. So then self-concept and future orientation. So trauma can affect a person's self-concept in such a way that, trauma can affect a person's self-concept in such a way that the person no longer believes, the person is losing a part of him or herself, losing a part of yourself. Like you are not who you used to be. Maybe before now you're easygoing, you don't disturb others, you don't fight with people. But these days, just realize you get easily triggered, just fight with everyone. You're not able to cope with things. You're not able to cope with little things. Or maybe before now you're very agile person, you can go here and there, but now you're always feeling sad. You are just losing a part of you. That is how I can put it. Then it affects the images that the person sees. Now it's more of negative image, disaster, destruction, all those things. Then it affects a person's belief. When you've experienced trauma, you no longer believe some things about yourself. In fact, it affects the way you see life generally. So you no longer believe some things about yourself, and then you start to you start to doubt yourself. You start to doubt all the promises of Allah. You start to tell yourself that, oh, is this thing really going to be what what I've read in the Quran? Then it affects a lot of the belief you have about yourself. I don't know what is wrong with this video. Just... Can you see me? Because I
Yes.
can't.
Don't worry, you can continue, just so that you don't get it.
Okay, cool. Then common responses to trauma. So what are the common responses to trauma? We have changes in the physical structure of the brain. When a person has experienced trauma, so the person can start to have some. So it is not about physical things that happen in that person's environment again. It can be some structures of the brain are not well arranged again as a result of the trauma. Because when a person thinks too much, like you ruminate all the time, you are busy thinking about the negative events that you went through, you are busy thinking that you're just rerunning thoughts in your head about what happened to you in the past, especially a negative thing. So it can affect the physical structure of the brain. It can also affect the chemical composition of the brain, because what we know is when a person has experienced trauma and then the person is still having a bit of reaction, or maybe thoughts, negative thoughts all the time, this can lead to secretion of stress chemicals. So, we have different kinds of chemicals in the brain. So this can lead to secretion of some cortisol, adrenaline. When the body is not using cortisol, adrenaline, and then prolonged activation of this thing, like secretion of this stress chemical, can affect the person in a negative way. That is what causes all these symptoms that we've been talking about. Heightened fight or flight response, body dysregulation, they over respond to stimuli. When they see something in the environment, I'm afraid, because they are hypervigilant. They think something is there to maybe like that trauma will happen again. It's just like the video of a boy I saw on LinkedIn. The boy, I think the boy is in Palestine, maybe around 7 or 8 year old boy, and then he was just looking here and there, so afraid, thinking this thing is happening again. So that is the textbook example of trauma. So hypersensitive to sound and smells, unaware of pain. Some people are not even aware of their internal physical sensations, all those things. So how does trauma impact us? It leads to dysregulation of HPA axis, that is the stress system. It shrinks the hippocampus. That's the part of the brain that is involved in emotional processing. So it shrinks that part of the brain. When that part of the brain is shrinked, so it means the person will not even be able to process emotion well. Then activating amygdala. So it continues to activate a person's amygdala. I'm not using the language in the brain actually. So this is the part of the brain that is involved in emotional whatever as well. So at that person's amygdala is activated often all the time. So that can lead to all these symptoms that I've been talking about: hypervigilance, sleep disruption, because your amygdala is always activated, and then you are just thinking about the thing. Your brain is not relaxed, so such person will not be able to sleep. And so like that, the way it affects emotion now. So how does it affect emotion? Difficulty feeling positive feelings. Such person will not be able to feel some positive feelings, like, oh, something positive happen in such person's environment. Person will just be, oh, it doesn't count. I don't even, okay, thank God. Person will not be able to show the real gratitude. And emotional dysregulation, like mention anger, numbness, difficulty feeling, okay. So worried, irritable, such person will be irritated often. Such person will be confused. Such person might be restless, shocked, shame. Those are the ways it affects emotion. So the way it affects cognition is that such person might be having a lot of pessimism, that is negativity, then inflexible thinking, and cognitive impairment. It can affect a person's brain real time. Like such person might be losing memory. You're not able to remember things again. Trouble learning and remembering new information. I can't count the number of people that have come to me that, oh, I am a medical student, I am in school, I can't just concentrate again. In fact, I'm having exam in the next 2 weeks, and I've been reading, I've been doing everything, but I can't just come. I can't just concentrate again, and I'm not even able to comprehend what I'm reading. So I find it difficult to learn new things. Then planning and organization. These people, they are not able to be organized. They don't remember where they drop a key. They didn't even remember where they put their scarves. They don't even remember where so they are always forgetting things. And so it affects a person's judgment as well. When a person is having serious trauma, it can affect the way the person judge issues. Things that are not difficult might start to become too difficult for such person. Such person might not be able to solve problem. They might not be able to take decision, and it affects a person's self-awareness as well. So the person might not even be able to know who they are again. Like, who am I? Like, I wasn't like this, all those things. So, okay, attention and concentration, I've said that. So the way it affects physical part of a person is that the person starts to have some persistent headaches. This kind of headaches, as you've taken all kinds of drugs and you still have it. So that is it. Then aches and pains around the body, always having this pain. And this kind of thing, if you've gone to the hospital and then they still don't know what is wrong with you, so that can be trauma. Shaking, tiredness, feeling tired all the time, sweating. So it can also affect how often a person eats, or how we feel like eating. I've seen a woman that didn't even eat for like 3 months. It is trauma. So that is the way trauma affects people. Also, looking after yourself, it can affect the way you take care of yourself. Holding down a job. When a person have trauma, such person might not be able to work, because the person is always taking permission. I'm not available. I'm sick. I'm this. I'm that. They're always taking permission, and then it can affect. So the person might not be able to contribute to what is happening again at the office. The person is not able to bring fresh ideas. So it affects the person's performance at work. It affects how a person maintains friendship and relationship, remembering things, making decisions, your sex life as well, coping with change, panic attacks, self-neglect, suicidal feelings, alcohol and substance abuse. So those are the symptoms of trauma. Then there are some triggers. Some people that have experienced these things and they didn't process the trauma, they have unhealed trauma. So most times they get triggered by different things, things that are related to the trauma, maybe about seeing some people, a person that has been sexually abused in the past. So such person, seeing a person, maybe the person that abused the person was very tall. So seeing a tall person can trigger all the symptoms, and then the person can start to feel so down. Maybe it's the freeze response, the flight response, or the fight response, or the person might be running away. Some people don't even leave their house. Oh, I'm so afraid, I'm scared of, so that is how it is triggered, because they've not processed the trauma. That is why they always have those flashbacks, so those triggers. So they start to avoid places, avoid people, avoid situations. So this then leads to isolation, because you don't go to places you usually go in the past. You don't see people that you usually see. So it means you will be on your own. And so these people might not even return calls. They might not reach out to friends the way they used to do. They might not go for programs. They might stop doing many things, because their brain tells them that if they do this, their trauma will come back. So they are always afraid. Then it also affects running away, like refusing to talk, avoidance, all those things, yelling, aggressive behavior. These are the symptoms. These are the triggers. Spacing out, disconnected, feeling confused, all of those things. I mentioned them actually. So these are the ways trauma can affect an individual. So what are the Islamic strategies to rewire the brain now? So we have a lot of them. We have the physiological aspects, we have the solar, askar, iman, that is the cognitive aspects, so like that. So now let's talk about neuroplasticity first, because many people don't understand this aspect. When they, especially some people that even go into therapy, they expect things to change immediately. Let's say a person is having anxiety, and then those people are told to take certain drugs or to do certain things when it comes to therapy. And these people ask that, oh, and they keep calling, I'm still feeling this way, I'm still having this. So it doesn't mean going into therapy or taking medication doesn't mean what is wrong with you, we change, like your condition will improve immediately. No. So this is where neuroplasticity come in. So neuroplasticity is just about the brain's ability to modify neural connections and to reorganize itself. So it takes implementing some lifestyle habits and practices. So these practices are the ones that promote brain rewiring. So it is possible to transform our minds in powerful ways, but we need to implement these habits. So if you go into therapy, you have to practice what you learn there. It is just like Islam. If you're practicing, if you are a Muslim and you don't practice, you won't see the benefits. You won't even see, the fruit of being a believer because you are not practicing. So uh, both what's it called? Both medication and therapy, it needs work if you want to be okay. So you need you need to understand this neuroplasticity very well, that it is something that it is possible for the brain to readjust itself. Those physical structures that I mentioned the other time, those chemicals can change. You can start to secrete endorphins, serotonin, feeling good hormone, feeling good chemicals, but you have to implement what you learn. And if you are reading anything online, if you are reading any book, you have to implement. If you are not implementing, nothing will change. So based on my research, I've learned that, okay, maybe if a person can do something consistently for like 20 days, 22 days, it does something in the brain, even though it might not completely rewire that brain. But if you can do it 600 times, doing chanting your askar every day, there is wisdom in chanting askar every day. There is wisdom in that 5 daily solar prescription. There is wisdom in all these things. And it's just for us to be happy, to be normal, to have good mental health. There's wisdom in believing in Allah. If you do all this, there are things that will rewire your brain, but it has to be something that is done consistently, not just once, not just twice. Then, so I'm moving to the next thing now. The first thing that can help a person to rewire the brain is solar. So solar helps cultivate focused awareness. It helps to, regulate the brain. It helps to strengthen connections between brain regions that are related to attention, concentration, impulse control. Because people that have trauma issues, one of the things that affect them is also this impulse of a thing. They don't think about this before they do it. They spend anyhow, money that they don't want to spend. They just end up wasting the money. They talk anyhow to people, things that they don't do before, because they are having impulse control problem. Then so solar is something that can help to strengthen connection in this part of the brain. So to be able to, for solar to have effect on a person's brain, so it means the person have to observe solar with focus. That is very crucial. If you want your brain to be rewired, you have to focus. And that is what we learn in Islam. There are different things, there are different write-ups on focusing in solar. If you don't focus in solar, you won't reap the benefit of that solar, both spiritually and mentally. So we can now see the wisdom behind this solar that has been prescribed by Allah. So if you observe Salah well, with Kushu, you are able to focus, your mental health will be excellent. So you observe, so now imagine observing Subhi, Zuhr, Asri, Maghrib, Isha, observing also the Nawafil part, different Tahajjud with focus. Let's just imagine, in fact, we don't even need to wait for 3 months before our brain gets rewired. Just observing Salat every day, make sure you do all the Nawafil, Tahajjud, everything with focus. And then your brain gets rewired within a short period of time because you do this thing consistently and you even do them in multiple times in a day. So that is how Salat rewires the brain. Then so I talk about Salah in Jama actually. So social interaction profoundly shapes our neurology. So face-to-face contact is very important. It causes the release of oxytocin, that is love chemical. So what this does is that it facilitates brain cell connection and growth in key regions of the brain. So it is very important we talk to people face to face. These days we are so engrossed with Facebook, we are not connecting with our children, we are not connecting with our spouses, we are not connecting with people that are in our environment, and that is what causes the release of oxytocin. That is what causes brain rewiring. So face to face is the best. But if you don't have people around you, maybe you're living in a part of the country or in a part of a country whereby you don't really have family members around, relate with sisters, relate with brothers in that country, and also do video call with people that you love, video call with your family members. It helps. It facilitates brain cell connections in different key regions in the brain. Then also make regular Salah in Jama a priority. Attend Islamic gatherings. Shake your brethren, same sex, so hug your brethren, same sex, family, smile often. So all these are things that causes secretion, release of certain chemicals, especially feel good chemicals in the brain. So we can see the benefits of all these things that have been prescribed by Allah and His Rasul. So this is a high time to actually start to practice all these things if we've not been doing it. And for those of us that have been doing it, Barakallahu Fik. So then the next one is Quran memorization. Whenever I tell people that the first day I learned this thing about Quran memorization, in fact, it gave me another strength to start to continue my memorization, because when I realized that apart from, having a lot of reward on the day of Yawm al-Qiyamah in life generally, then I now learned that when I memorize the Quran, it does something in my brain. It makes me feel happy. It strengthens the connections, key regions. So I'm like, oh my God, this is just what we need. So memorization serves as a workout for the brain. It trains the brain to be quick, to be agile, to be focused. So it teaches the mind to remain focused when dealing with unpleasant tasks. Can you imagine? So when you memorize often, these are the things that is not even memorize anything, memorize the Quran. Another key thing about memorizing Quran is to know the meaning of what you are reading. That is how the brain helps to convert it. It changes your emotion immediately. You're reading that thing and then you're familiar with the meaning. So it is very important we learn the meaning of the Quran. Why Quran does not really have effect on some people is because they don't know the meaning. Because before the brain can convert something, the brain must understand that language. So if you're reading something now, we've read it in so many hadiths or maybe some stories in the past that whenever some companions or even Rasul Sallallahu himself, whenever they are reading so a certain portion of the Quran, they will slow, they might repeat that verse because they knew the meaning of those verses and it is doing something in their brain. So it is very important that we learn the meaning of the Quran. Most times I tell parents that before children even go to this, before they start to learn about ABC, when they are learning ABC 1, 2, 3, they should also be learning Alif and Nun, and and no, all those things, so that they will be able, and then they should also learn the meaning of that thing they are saying, so that as they are growing, Quran is impacting them, it is helping them, it is changing their brain, not just doing it. Then the next thing is safe place visualization. when a person has experienced trauma, it is normal that such person is always having negative thoughts, about themselves, about life, or maybe the trauma keeps replaying in their head. So one of the things a person can do is to do safe place visualization, that is visualizing journal. In this normal Western wherever, we do safe place visualization, but we mostly do it with maybe visualizing a place that is so fantastic that whenever you go to such place, you'll be very happy. But why can't we visualize Jannah? When we visualize Jannah, that is the essence of having those verses in the Quran, so that whenever we read it, it will motivate us, it will push us to do good deeds. So when we visualize Jannah, it is the same feel-good chemical that is being secreted in the brain. So it is very important that we do place visualization. So one thing again about trauma is that trauma and anxiety can cause us to feel like we have no safe place for refuge. But by the time we realize that, well, this life is just a place of anguish, is a place of sadness, but there is a place I'm going, that when I get there, things will just be, I will just be more relaxed. I'll be happy. Nothing like this person is talking about you or killing here and there. There's nothing again. It is just peace. When you visualize such place, it will even give you energy to keep pushing on, to keep hoping that, oh, Allah will definitely help me someday. If it's not in life here, it will be in Jannah. So let me just keep hoping and, doing good deeds. So that is the essence of safe place visualization. Because of our time, we might not be able to go through how to do, like, teach us safe place visualization, but you can always check the internet. Then Jannah visualization, there are so many verses that I've put together here about visualizing Jannah. Then containment exercise. So processing trauma can be cathartic, like it can cause feelings of overwhelm, sadness, and anxiety afterwards. So that is why it's not good to process trauma on your own. It's very good to, work with a therapist that can help. So, but if you're doing it yourself, you can have a worrisome feeling. You can start to have anxiety. So if you are not able to control your anxiety,
I think you are muted, please. Kindly check. Ajia Nafisah, you are muted. Please check your mic.
sorry about that. So containment exercise, when you do containment exercise, it's just like taking this worry in your brain, like in your mind eye, taking it to a place whereby it's just like giving it to a person that can help you, and that is Allah. So all these worries, all this stress, you don't complain to anybody, or you don't put the weight on yourself. You just hand it over to Allah. You can even imagine handing it over to Allah. Like, our imagination is so powerful. So that is why when a person experiences trauma, one of the things that happens to such person is it damages a person's imagination. You start to imagine good things. You stop imagining good things, rather. It damages it. You are not able to imagine that good things can happen to you. The only thing you're thinking at that time is sadness, terrible illness, trauma. So you can start to bring up positive imagination, positive things on your own. You can sit down like this, and then you can start to imagine giving Allah the problem, or you can start to imagine all those 99 names of Allah. That, oh wow, Allah is the most merciful. Also, if a person is the most merciful, that means the person loves me so much. So as you imagine that, something is happening in the brain. Every activities we engage in, it affects our brain. Everything we put in our mouth, it affects our brain. That is why the brain is so powerful. So we need to nurture our brain. We need to cultivate happiness. We need to experience gratitude. We need to be active. And that is just what Allah wants us to do. And there's dua. Dua is very important. So I was just talking about handing over your problem to Allah that can help you, that can assist you. So when we make dua, it facilitates uh, our healing. So it is very important that we make dua often. And Allah says, there's this hadith, okay, as hadith could say, okay, and when my servant ask you, oh Muhammad, concerning me, indeed I am near. This is the one that we are all used to. I respond to the invocation of the supplicant when it calls upon me. So let them respond to me and believe in me that they might be rightly guided. So let them respond to me. That is, let them obey me. So if you obey Allah, you will have principles by which you live your life. So, and that can be when negative things happen to you, you show gratitude. Okay, you are patient rather. And when positive things happen to you, you show gratitude. That is the principle believers should live their life on. The principle of, okay, when negative things happen, I am patient, and when positive things happen, I express gratitude. All these are not things that we just start to do today. They are things that we can train our brain to do. Our brain generally is wired to see anything that can go wrong, negative. Oh, this thing is not working. Oh, my job is not okay. Oh, I have lost my job. Oh, I have lost my family member. That is the way the brain is wired. But by the time you realize that I am the one that will train my brain, I need to pick a choice. And the choice is, I have to live. It is your responsibility. I have to live. You have to give Allah the whole worry, the whole stress. And what for now you're going to be yourself after that traumatic experience, because you don't have any other choice. At least you cannot kill yourself. Killing oneself means, another problem on its own. So you don't have any other option than to live. So that is why it is very important that you start to work on how you are going to live. Then Allah also say in Quran, that's Quran 3 verse 200, where Allah says, oh, you who have believed, persevere, endure, remain stationed, and have consciousness of Allah, that you may be successful. That is prescription for good mental health. In that verse, Allah says, persevere, endure, remain stationed, and have consciousness of Allah. Consciousness of Allah is to be mindful of Allah. So if you are mindful of Allah, you are mindful of where you are mindful of the present moment. You won't, trauma-related thinking will not affect your brain in a negative way. Then mantra repetition, that is zikr azkar. So mantra repetition is the practice of repeating and uplifting, usually spiritual phrase to yourself. So when you think of mantra, just think of azkar. So Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam repeated zikr throughout the day, every day. So research indicates that mantra repetition can significantly improve well-being for individuals who have PTSD. So it is very important that you pick azkar that you want to be saying. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. So that guides your brain to the fact that it's from Allah. Everything, all the things that I'm just stressing myself about, everything is from Allah. And when it is time, all those things will go back to Allah. So it is high time I focus on what matters. And what matters is what will help me to attain Jannah and leave all these things that I'm busy stressing myself about. And then when we even think about the fact that whatever happens is because Allah has allowed that thing to happen. So it will give us this kind of relaxation that, oh, it is not even me that I'm controlling this thing. It is Allah, and is in charge of my affairs. So zikr. Then grounding techniques as well. Most times, memory of traumatic experiences can cause our body and brain to perceive a threat where there is none. So it can lead to anxiety. You can feel physically and emotionally overwhelmed. So grounding is a technique that can break this cycle. It shifts your attention away from stressful thoughts into the present moment. So this as well, there's a way we do it. It's just to focus on your environment, to notice what is here, what is in your present environment, instead of you to be overwhelmed and busy thinking about different negativities. So then mindfulness that I mentioned the other time, it's just because of our time, I would have loved to take us through it, but there's no time. So let me just go to cognitive strategies. So that one is just about all the things that I've been mentioning. You need to prioritize your life by putting Allah and what He commands first. So if you want to be happy, if you want everything to work well for you, prioritize Allah, prioritize obedience to Allah. And okay, so what He commands, then have this unshakable belief in the oneness of Allah, purify your soul, attain spiritual excellence, consciousness of Allah, think good of Allah and other people. So then understand the 5 pillars of Islam. You know, when you visit places, for instance, you go to Hajj, you'll be able to see new things, and that can have an effect on your brain. You know, I mentioned the other time that everything we do affects our brain. So yeah, intentionally create positive memories. Go out, visit places that will make you happy. Reach out to people that are good, like good people. Reach out to them, be in their midst, like being in the midst of your brethren. It elevates your mood. So you purposely create you purposely create the emotion you want to have. Don't just say it's just designed to this negativity, this sadness, this depression. That okay, because I am depressed, because this thing happened to me last year, so this is how I will always be. No, do something. Then lastly, articles of faith. If you don't believe in all these things, believe in the oneness of Allah, angels of Allah, day of judgment, book of Allah, the person is just stressing him or herself, because this is the foundation. This is what will help you to live this life. This is just like the manual, just like the Quran. When you have the Quran and then you are able to read it and understand what is there, that will give you strength. So this belief is something that we need to check if we still have it. Then the last one is stories of the prophets. You know, time has actually gone also to start to talk about them, but there are things that we are familiar with. Faith during hardship, we know, most of us have read Prophet Ayub and how his faith was like mountain during hardship. There is a lot of discussion on it, but because of time. Then trials build strength. That is Prophet Yusuf. After the whole trial, he still went on to become, you know, as a result of become a leader as a result of his of faith and hope, and then overcoming fear. That is Prophet Musa. If you read the story of Prophet Musa, we will understand how it all happened, and how it even happened in such a way that those that were with him, they were destined, just like what is happening to us presently. When little things happen to us, we lose that consciousness. We are desperate. We are telling ourselves that, oh, this is the end of it. I'm not happy forever. And Allah says, don't fall into it. Don't fall into sadness. Because if you fall into sadness, before you take yourself out of it, I'm not talking about normal fleeting sadness. I'm talking about depression. This will be very hard. So that is why in the first place, have faith, have hope that Allah will help you throughout the journey. Then Prophet Yunus as well, faith and courage and hope for the future, that's Prophet Ibrahim. And finally, reconciliation, that's Prophet Muhammad. When we read all these stories, that is the theme of each of their stories. You reconcile, finally you will be at peace, you have sekina, you will be happy, and you will be able to meet Allah with heart that is full of joy. So that would be the end of the lecture actually. So we pray Almighty Allah make it easy for us and accept this from us, and as an act of worship. Subhanaka Allahumma bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Salamun ala al-mursalin.
I really appreciate that you were trying to keep to time. It's very, very good. I really appreciate. And I just quickly want to give some summary to the things you have said. You can put on your camera now, please, if you are able to. Yeah. So, yeah, I just want to highlight some of the things you mentioned. So I would like to ask some questions as well, and I have some questions in the comment section. But I just want to say that just a brief of what I've learned from this, and I want to say that some of the things you mentioned are actually very practical and easy to abide by it. Although I have a follow-up question on some of the alternative solutions that I have provided. The importance of names of Allah, I found that very amazing. That if we can imbibe the names of Allah, it's very key, because even aside 99 names of Allah, the fact that we know how we can process the Asmaullah was fat, how the essence of these names in our life are very important. And as you said, when we pronounce some of these things, they definitely leave an impact in our brain. And regarding the mantra, repeating words over and over, saying askar. I know, like even in the current situation in Palestine, we want to know the answer to these things. We just don't understand why is it keep going on as if these people don't even have a heart of their own. And the only thing we should just resort to is to just keep reciting Ezekiel that will reflect that Allah is actually in charge. Like things like Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil, that Allah is the one that can be a support to this to every affair. So it's a good approach, and to always know that Allah is in control. And the last thing you mentioned about wisdom from the prophet, and we all agree that nobody has their kind of shock absorbers. Let me put it that way. I mean, the kind of trials they went through, they are not the normal. They are not the normal trials that we go through. That if it will happen to us, it's automatic trauma. So reading their stories should be an healing for us. Now the questions. I will ask some of these questions, and so after asking the question, if we have anybody from the audience, then I will we can unmute their mic. So first question I have here, this is from my side anyway. The first question I want to ask before asking the second question from the group: what is the difference between uh, serious stress and trauma? Is it possible that you are going through a serious stress and it's not trauma? And how can we differentiate between the two? I think you should maybe you can answer that, and then I will go to the next section.
Serious threat. I don't understand that serious threat. Is it like some people threatening you?
Okay, yeah, maybe it could be from work as well. Maybe you have
Okay.
a kind of task that is threatening, maybe, or deadline, and you are really going through serious tough time at that period. So it can we differentiate between trauma and something like that?
Okay. Well, what we know about this trauma of a thing is that the moment something starts to become threatening to you, it kicks off the fight or flight response. So it is just that is why there's this saying that goes thus, stress is in the eye of the beholder. So if the threat is not stressful for you, like to you are not seeing it as threat, and you're not even seeing the deadline as anything like, oh, this is what we've been doing, we will do it. It won't affect you. It won't lead to negative emotion, maybe having anxiety and all of that. But if you see it as so, if you see it as so, it is like the person's perspective. So if your perspective is, oh, this is very stressful, even something that is not, like, for instance, traffic, and this small t, this small, because there's small t trauma, there's big trauma. So all these small trauma are the ones that we encounter on a daily basis, like traffic, like losing a key, like losing some money, looking for where you put your phone. All those ones are small t. They shouldn't affect us in a significant way. But what we know is if a person is not careful, this small t can have the same effect as big T. Like it will be the same way. The person has not lost family member, the person is okay, everything is fine. But because of the daily stress that the person go through, the person will just come down with mental illness. And then that is why some people say, I'm not happy and I have money, everything is fine. Why? Because they have not, they are not aware of this, all these little small things in their life.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the next question from the chat says there is a common scare against medication for mental health problems. So can you shed more light on it, please? Like people don't want to use drugs from clinical solutions for mental health, something like that. I think that's what this person is trying to say.
Okay, that those that use drugs to solve trauma issues, right?
Yeah, medications for mental health generally. So,
Okay, maybe those that put substance. So what is now the question?
so the question is, people have this general scare that maybe if you use it, the things will become worse or something like that. They are scared of. At the time you start using, maybe they start thinking you are mad. Or so, can you
Okay,
shed like maybe it's
I
good?
think the person, okay, I think the question the person is trying to ask is, They are afraid to take psychotropic medication. Yeah.
Okay.
They are afraid of taking psychotropic, all these depression drugs, anxiety drug that the psychiatrists usually give to people. That some people are afraid of taking it because they believe when they take those drugs, it might have some side effects that will now destroy their mental health or their physical health. So they're always afraid of taking it. On that, it is it is very important that you take your medication. Yes, except in a few cases maybe the thing is not, but for a psychiatrist to give you medication, no, it means you should take your medication. At least it helps a lot. And also many people didn't even know that, okay, when they are seeing psychiatrists, they are supposed to see therapists as well. Most times mental illness is not treated with only medication. It is both. That is why when you go to when you visit an hospital, they are usually in a team, like psychologists, psychiatrists, social worker, and all those things, because they have to work together. So when if you're seeing a psychiatrist for instance, you should see a clinical psychologist, you should see a therapist, so that the effect can easily, manifest in your life. So on my own advice this time around is to take your medication. Take it, then do the therapy. If you are able to implement what you learn in therapy, the whole thing, you will stop taking the medication. You stop taking the medication in time. So that is it.
So the next question is that, okay, we have some of the alternatives you have provided in terms of solar, hadkar, perfecting your iman, isan, the body and mind and all that, the mantra. So that's, it is possible that someone is not even doing all of this before, even though they are Muslims, maybe they are not to that level. And when they encounter trauma, it might be difficult to start doing that. I mean, it's supposed to be something that is part of them or something they would like to do. So how do we deal with this kind of person? How will they be able to apply these alternatives?
Okay, Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. We thank Allah for being Muslims actually. One thing about the brain again is that the brain is not used to anything. That's why when I come across people that tell me this is me and I'll always be like this, I'll just be like, this is not you. Like we didn't know anything. Why we got to the surface of the earth, we learned so many things. That is why all these negative behaviors, they are things we learn. So if you want anything to have effect on you, when you start to do it, you will feel uncomfortable because the brain has not learned it. But by the time you start to do that, just continue. That is what I usually tell people. Whenever I ask people to do something, they might come back that it's very difficult, I'm not able to do it. I say, yeah, that is the nature of the brain. You will not find it easy earlier, immediately. But if you can continue to do it, after a while, the brain will start to adjust. It is you are the driver of the seat. You are the one. It Allah has put you in charge. That's why Allah says He will not change the condition of people until they change what is within themselves. So if you are able to understand this aspect of the Quran, you will understand that when you start to do some things, it will not be easy. But if you can continue, let's say you've not been doing your askar, start to do the askar. You're obeying Allah as you do the askar. You are also reaping the benefits through your mental health. So it is a double win-win something. So the brain will not be used to it immediately, but just continue to do it. Don't stop. Then we get used to it.
I think these are the questions with me. So if you have anyone that would like to ask question or question first, then we can ask for comments. You can just raise up your hand. I can allow you to ask the question. Okay, so it seems everyone is clear. And if you have any comments, please. Yeah, alhamdulillah. I think we don't have any comments or questions. So I would like to thank you for honoring our request. And this has been an educative session. So inshallah, hope that we'll be able to have you next time. And in part of our a way of appreciation that we usually give out a certificate of appreciation to our resource persons, and which I'm going to communicate with you later. I'm not able to produce it for now. Just a token of appreciation from us that we thank you for being part of the movement to contribute to the normalization of Islamic psychology, the mental health around the globe. So we thank you once again, Therapist Nafisah, for coming and for sharing your experience with us. Thank you very much. So, do you have anything to say as a closing remark? I wouldn't mind.
I just want to encourage us all to not give up hope and to continue to, practice all these things that we mentioned. It's not for anybody, it's for you first. And may Almighty Allah make it easy for every one of us.
Exactly. So inshallah, this session is recorded and we'll be sharing it with us maybe in about a week. And I urge everyone, I shared some chat links earlier. You can join some of this WhatsApp group and then you can have updates on upcoming events and other activities by ISIP-International. We also have some dedicated groups for this crisis support, especially as it's going on in Palestine, and some other focus group. There are lots you can benefit from ISIP. It's just join one of the links and we can continue discussion there, inshallah. So I would like to close the session now. Subhanakallah wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله.